Welcome to the Soldiers to Sidelines Commander-in-Chief Trophy Series webinar, where we are going to have a great show preparing for tomorrow's Commander-in-Chief game with the Army playing at Air Force Academy. And what we do on this show is we go down memory lane with some of the most prestigious Academy alumni from each of these teams, and we go and take a look at some of the great plays in their history and how those experiences has led to their leadership success in the military and beyond. And it's a wonderful day of fellowship, nostalgia, and believe it or not, we get to mine these beautiful minds for their great wisdom in leadership and coaching, since that's what Soldiers to Sidelines is all about. And I'm going to start to introduce our two guests, and we will introduce them as we get to watch a little bit of their highlight films before we break it all down. So first, I would like to introduce our Army guest, Anthony Noto, who is the CEO of SoFi and serves on its board of directors. Since joining SoFi in February 2018, Anthony has led the company to double down on its mission of helping its over 1 million members get their money right, while fully transitioning the company from a desktop lender to a fully mobile-first full suite of financial service products. Before joining SoFi, Anthony served as Chief Operating Officer of Twitter since November 2016 and is its Chief Financial Officer when joining the company in July 2014. Prior to Twitter, Anthony served for almost 4 years as co-head of Global TMT Investment Banking at Goldman Sachs. Before returning to Goldman, Anthony spent almost 3 years as Chief Financial Officer of the NFL. Anthony is a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy. He also holds an MBA from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School. And Anthony was an outstanding football player at both the running back position and the linebacker position, with a breakout season at linebacker in 1990 from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And it is my honor to introduce Anthony Noto. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you, Harrison. I appreciate it.
So happy you're with us, and I can't wait to see all these, go into detail with your incredible highlight film. And now I'm going to introduce our representative from the Air Force Academy. It is the esteemed Greg Johnson. So Greg Johnson is an executive vice president and general manager of Intuit's 3.6 billion consumer group. Appointed to this role in August 2018, he leads an organization that offers a suite of consumer tax and financial products and services in the US, Canada, including TurboTax, TurboTax Live, and Mint. Previously, Greg was Senior Vice President of Marketing for Intuit's Consumer Group, leading a diverse team of marketing professionals responsible for the group's go-to marketing strategy, marketing analytics and execution, and digital marketing. In 2014, Greg was awarded the Intuit CEO Leadership Award, which recognizes employees who delivered trajectory-changing outcomes while role modeling and explicitly teaching the company's values. Prior to joining Intuit, he worked for world-class organizations, including Kraft Foods, where he spent time with our other guest, Anthony Noto, and that's going to be fun to rehash those stories. He worked at SC Johnson, Kodak, Gillette, and Best Buy, and served as contracting officer in the United States Air Force. He's also been a member of the board of directors at Qualcomm since 2020. Greg is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy, where he received a BS in operations research and served on the cadet wing staff. He was also a 4-year letterman and all-conference Division I collegiate football player at running back, who twice earned All-American Honorable Mention honors. Please welcome Greg Johnson. Happy to have you, Greg.
Thanks, Harrison. Great to be here.
So guys, I want to turn this question over to each of you, and we'll start with Anthony. What does this game tomorrow mean to you? Like, so when you played Air Force in your playing days, how special was that opportunity versus playing some of the other schools? And do you go down memory lane heading into tomorrow's game at Air Force?
It's a critical game for the year. The two biggest games Army plays every year are Air Force and Navy. It's always been that way since the Commander-in-Chief Trophy was created. Army is an independent school, doesn't have a conference. Air Force isn't a conference, the Navy is. This is Army's conference, so to speak. It's a battle against, John Feinstein said it the best, it's a battle against your brothers. It's similar profiles in terms of the players, in terms of their mentality, in terms of their backgrounds, in terms of their grit, their persistence, the way they come together as a team. And so I like to think of it as a battle against your brother, and there's no victory greater than being able to beat your brother in the backyard. And I would say similarly on the football field. So it's a big part of what Army I think gives young men an opportunity to go out and compete against on the level playing field against someone that's basically their equal. And I think that's a great test. And similarly, the teams all want to put it all on the line for each other. And that camaraderie causes the play to be elevated for everyone, including the coaches. I know, having talked to coaches 30 years later, how much responsibility they feel to getting their teams prepared for this game. And I know when we were there, it was, we put everything we had into the preparation, not just the X's and O's, but the whole game plan, the whole process to get to the game logistically, and everything else that possibly could give us an advantage. Our coaches also put it all on the line. So it's one of those things where it's the biggest event you could, biggest challenge you could have, and it happens 4 times, and you only get 4 shots at it. So it's something that lasts with you forever.
Well said. And, you mentioned something that's my favorite part of watching these games is, battling against your brother. You said that a few times there. And it's so special to see this competition where, although it's a fierce rivalry, the brotherhood, the coming together after the games and serving your country together, on the battlefield and in so many other missions is really what warms my heart. I feel like it is the example of class and competition. So really cool. I just wanted to know, you mentioned that you really respect the logistics of getting everyone to and from these games. So Anthony, did your coach arrange for those helicopters to fly your team?
No,
How you got to these games?
No, I figured in the spirit of competitiveness, this is one of the days of the year where we are not friends and we are not comrades, but we are mortal enemies this week. So I'm wearing my Letterman sweater. It's my go to battle uniform. Probably can't see it that well given the computer, but I have my battle uniform on, and as much as I love Greg and I would do anything in the world for him today and tomorrow, not a damn thing.
Well, then, you got the ball now, Greg. What does this game mean to you? What did it mean to you while you were playing, and what does it mean to you today?
It's funny. My perspective is very similar to Anthony's. Couple things I would just add on top of it. This game was especially important to me. My brother went to West Point, my older brother, who, not only was my role model, but he was also the guy who used to come in the backyard and, beat me up, but a special game for me. The other thing I would say is, we are more similar than you can imagine, in terms of, when I say we, I mean the players for any of the academies effectively maybe had a choice to attend the same academies, certainly go through the rigor, the training, all the leadership development. And I think what makes us similar makes the game more special, right? Because you are battling against your brother. And so, yeah, very important game. There's a lot at stake, bragging rights. Particularly in years like these, when both Army and Air Force are having pretty strong years, it just amplifies the significance, the importance of the game, and I'm looking forward to a competitive show.
Yeah, so you were actually competing before we got onto this show. As a matter of fact, I think Intuit is leading the score right now in number of folks that logged onto this webinar. By a score of 7-3. And I apologize, Anthony. He was goading me into that before.
Everything, Matt, winners keep score, right, Harrison? Is that right?
Competition. We got to give Anthony a rebuttal there. He got an opportunity to defend himself.
Well, absolutely. I didn't want to distract our employees. They're fighting a different war for our members. So, this is the call back to the White House to talk to the boss, so to speak. And so the troops are out there fighting hand-to-hand combat.
I love it. Well, I want to start to get into some of the amazing plays that both of you participated in your time at each of the academies. And, I'm going to jump back and forth between your clips here. And I'm going to start here with Greg, actually, where, the big buzzword in sports, right, or in football right now is the RPO, the run pass option. And if we check out this game here against Notre Dame, I believe, what year was this? Was this 1988, Greg?
89.
89. So what this play is an amazing touchdown by Greg. So he was a running back, but I guess in the academies everyone's a running back. You're either a running back or a linebacker or an O lineman, and he catches this unbelievable pass. But this is the beginning of the RPO. There it is, going the distance. Look at those wheels. Incredible. So I'm going to watch this back again and notice, the quarterback, Greg, who's your quarterback here?
D. Dallas.
He was pretty
Amazing
impressive.
quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. So D. Dallas. Was he a Heisman candidate?
Yeah, D. Dallas was one of the most amazing athletes that I ever had a chance to be around. Yeah, he was a Heisman finalist. I think he stood about 5'8" and weighed maybe a buck 50, Harrison. But he was a Heisman Trophy finalist, touchdown leader for Air Force Academy, and he has all kinds of records. Just an amazing person.
Yeah, and here it is. You two, this connection is one of the beginnings of the RPO as we have the sprint out option look. Look, you have the bubble screen at the top, right? Which was, in the 80s, this was like cutting edge stuff. And then your, All-American running back is split out. The outside linebacker has to honor it. And D just throws you a strike in stride. And then look at those wheels. And then this block. Greg, who is this coming to your rescue here, throwing this downfield block?
That's my man, Steve Sen. Steve Sen. He was another guy, just incredible receiver. Hell, I still see Steve today. He's maybe 5'10", 5'11", 180 pounds. Now maybe 170 pounds actually. The academy, most of us are kind of small. I was large for a running back, but in general, we're on the small side, but we make up for it with just effort, right? Tenacity and effort.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I love this Commander-in-Chief Trophy Series is because you see it, and we're going to see it tomorrow. And tenacity and effort. Talk to us for a second, Greg, how tenacity and effort has helped you in your career after football. How did this set the foundation for you?
What I would say is one big thing is mindset. The way that you prepare for a football game, the practices, the hard work, having to push yourself, the amount of film you have to watch, the amount of study and the anticipation, the game plan, the execution, the accountability with teammates, all of those things that go into football at a very young age start to form a mindset in the way you feel about being a part of a team, the responsibility and the accountability with that. And so what I would say is that same kind of mindset, that same kind of focus, effort, really is not only it's propelled me through my career. I think mindset is underrated. It can never be, just underestimated, the significance of having the right attitude, understanding what it means to work hard, understanding what it means to be a great teammate, and understanding what it means for people to try to achieve greatness together. And that's been important, not only on the football field, but certainly throughout my career as well.
Yeah, and you're not alone, right? So, we're going to show some highlights from Anthony Noto's playing days as a linebacker. And the one thing that stands out to me in all the research to select these highlights is tenacity and perseverance from Coach Noto. Wait till you see this. It is so obvious on these clips where I don't know if there's a football player that played harder than Anthony. So let me get to this, share my screen. Okay, here we go. So Anthony Noto is number 44 right here, as you see him going sideline to sideline, and this kind of pursuit is nonstop all day. Like little things. I just want to point out a little thing here, Anthony. This is a small example of bleeding tenacity. In this tackle, you go through it, but you are squeezing this man's legs together. So there is no possible chance, even through the tackle, that he's going to get up. And you're showing every single coach and every single fan in the stands here that this is a tackle all the way through. And you see it nonstop. And we're going to show it again in the box, downhill. Boom. I mean, just all over the field, mauling people. I mean, Rutgers was really good this year. Look at that. I mean, those kinds of hits are violent that we just don't get to see in today's football. And to me, this tenacity and this perseverance just jumps off the screen. So talk to us about your feelings like during these moments in your career through the U.S. Military Academy to get to that point, and how did that carry through your military and business career?
You know, I think the amazing thing about Army football and West Point is that our coach, Jim Young, was every bit of a teacher and a molder of our character as anyone else at the academy. He taught us game strategy. He taught us how to play as a team. But he built a will inside of us where we do anything for each other. And more so that we would pay the price so that we could be on that field. And when he was at his Hall of Fame retirement, I had the pleasure to sit next to him. And I was asking him a ton of questions. And I said, Coach, what do you think is the thing that allowed you to start with 100 players in a freshman class and 30 of them, 35 of them are left when they're seniors, and kids are playing that probably weren't even that recruited? And he said, well, some of it's math. Like when I was at Ohio State and I was at Purdue and I was at Arizona, we had to recruit 3 kids to get one that would contribute. We always thought we knew which one it would be, but the reality is we were wrong. So we had to recruit 3 to get one. And at West Point, we had to get 10. We had to recruit 10 freshmen to get one that would pay the price over 4 years to get on that field. And, you know, when I think about being on that field, and the clip that you showed of Greg reminded me of Notre Dame. They won the national championship that year, and one of their inside linebackers was Michael Stonebreaker. And I think I was second team All East behind Michael Stonebreaker. I was a kid from Poughkeepsie that played quarterback, never played a down of defense in my life at the college level. I wanted to go to West Point more than West Point wanted me. I recruited West Point and ended up going to the prep school and playing football and baseball and played halfback there. And then I got to West Point, they switched me to fullback. I was the 8th string fullback. I was almost cut. It was such a battle. I had to quit the opportunity to play baseball. And every day I went to practice because I wanted to be one of those 25 or 30 guys that were standing on that field after beating Air Force or Navy and be side by side with my brothers. And so we gave it every day. As you mentioned, I didn't start till my senior year, and I had a great senior year and had a lot of great stats and All East and academic All-American and that stuff. But there's only one reason any of that happened. Those other 10 people on the field with me, the other, 25 seniors that were on the field with me, people like Willie Huff and O'Neal Miller. I blew out my knee after getting moved to linebacker and starting in the spring game my sophomore year. They moved me to linebacker. It was the most natural thing in the world to me. I went from being a slow fullback to a fast linebacker. And then I blow out both my knees, sophomore spring game. And I go to the hospital. I'm in the hospital. And O'Neal Miller, who was an All-American free safety for us, he was a senior. O'Neal blew out his knee that same day. By the way, O'Neal Miller is the guy that knocked out Howard Cross in the Sun Bowl against Alabama and returned a interception for a touchdown. O'Neal was 155 pounds, but he was tough as fucking nails. And he wasn't recruited like Michael Stonebreaker was, and I wasn't. And I'm sitting there, and Coach comes in and says, O'Neal, I'm so bummed you're not going to be able to play senior. And O'Neal says, Coach, I'm playing my senior year. I'm not having fucking surgery. I'm playing. And so he comes over to me and he's like, Anthony, our beds are like 10 feet apart. He goes, I'm just so devastated. Like, you went from a slow second, third string fullback to a fast, quick linebacker. Like, you was natural. You didn't even know what defense you were in. You're making 10 tackles in the spring game. And it's a bummer you're never going to play again. Because I blew up both my ACLs in the same play. And I said, Coach, I'm playing again. I'm playing in the fall. This was May. And I worked out with O'Neal that entire summer. And I played in the fall, and I played that senior year with no ACLs, but it had nothing to do with any textbooks. It had nothing to do with anything other than the culture that Coach Young built in our team and that we held each other responsible for. So when you sent me that clip and other clips to watch, I showed my son and my kids spent 31 years. They'd never seen me play. And every one of my kids, when I showed them, when we broke the huddle, they said, "Dad, why are you guys holding hands?" Think about that. Our defensive huddle, we'd hold hands. And when the huddle break, we said the same thing, swarm, which means we're getting 11 guys to the ball every time. And we're coming back here and we're going to hold each other's hands after that. And if it wasn't good enough, we're going to squeeze harder. We're going to hold each other's hands. And I just thought it was amazing that in this day, and they're at college athletes at Penn and Stanford, and one's going to Notre Dame. And they literally said, they had to ask me, why are you holding hands? I guarantee you there's no one at West Point that would have to ask that question. They would know. So anyway, it means the world to me. Grit, perseverance, all the things Greg talked about, on that field, on that play that you showed. Rick Angle was our corner. Rick had a bad ankle. He had a big interception in that game, by the way. But I knew he was on an island. When we lined up in that formation, I'm like, Rick is on a fucking island and he's in close coverage. If they run the quick pass, I've got to get there. And every time I lined up, that's the way I thought about things.
Incredible. And you can even hear the tenacity and perseverance still in your voice when you tell that story. And I love how you're giving credit to your teammates and to Coach Young, because, I think what all of the youth in America need to take away from this story is the totality of that story. Is you fought and clawed your whole time through West Point because that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to serve. You wanted to be successful. You became an academic All-American through hard work and grit, and you could have quit. And in today's transfer portal world, so many folks are underestimating and losing the extremely valuable life lesson of overcoming adversity. And you just seem to do this over and over and over again to culminate to this incredible senior year of football. But then more importantly, look what you've done in leadership for our country and in business. And, I just think, if you can stick with your team, be with your brothers and sisters, and battle just the way you did, I hope everybody watching this takes a page out of Anthony Noto's book to just keep moving forward and giving credit to the leaders before you and your teammates. So thank you so much for sharing that, Anthony. That is profound. We're going to go back here and look more into some of Greg's highlights here as I flip back. So not only do we get to see the beginning of the RPO, but Greg Johnson was able to run downhill, right? Get first downs. And he was also like a great perimeter runner. So more importantly, this play really works right here, this long touchdown, because of his threat in the option game. And we're going to start to see that here next. I just kept watching this. Oh, wait, we're going to go back to this. I'm going to fast forward to this play, and then we're going to go back to what we just skipped. This is Greg downhill running right here. Boom. Again, a part of football that's just starting to have a resurgence, but now here's the speed option. Get on the corner, gets a good block, spins, and then those wheels. Greg, did you ever run a 40, like get timed in that?
Yeah.
What was your best on the clock?
On the clock, 4:41. That was my best.
There it is. Well, yeah. I think we're seeing a 4.39 right here. Because Greg, you are out the gate on this play. I mean,
that was against San Diego State, actually. And it's funny how you remember those kind of plays, and you remember them every millisecond of it. You can imagine spinning and, and just we used to battle against San Diego State hard year in and year out. So a lot of big memories from those games.
So do you actually feel those feelings when you watch this? You're like conjuring up what happened on the field in this moment?
Yeah, well, that number 21 is Al Booker. He's the other halfback. D. Dallas. As usual, I think this game he might have had 283 yards, something like that, Harrison, which is just insane how good he was as a quarterback. and the defense had to respect him. So I had a small part. It's just I had a small part. With D, he would command so much attention, and then he would pitch it out to me, and all I had to do was figure out how to get it in the end zone. And that combination for a while, D led Air Force in touchdowns, historic touchdowns, and similar for me when it comes to running back. The number of touchdowns. 30 years later, some of those records still stand. So, man, I just love playing with him. He passed too early, and I think you and I were talking before about that. And that's another thing, is that not all of the brothers that I played with are still around. I mean, many are, but there are at least 3 on my team that are no longer with us. 2 killed in the line of duty, and then D in a tragic accident. And so, you do love them like brothers, and they're with you forever. But it still, really hurts your heart when you think about when you watch them on the field.
Yeah, Greg, and you're echoing the brotherhood again, right? The connection that Anthony was talking about, and it's just so special. You fight together on the field, and then you fought together, on the battlefield, and it's what makes this game tomorrow so special. And I said Army was playing at Air Force is because Air Force is technically the home team, but the game's being played at a neutral site. I believe it's in Arlington, Texas, at the Star.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
is at a neutral site, but Air Force gets the home is technically home in this one. But hey, so as you're telling the story, going down memory lane, we are remembering our brothers and sisters of the experiences we've had in the past, and that's why this webinar is so special, to reconnect spiritually with the people that we had these deep connections with. That's another one of my favorite parts of this webinar. And to lighten the mood a little bit, Greg, can you just talk to us about this infamous play? I'm not sure that the public has ever seen this. You might have heard about it, but have you ever seen this play? What's this?
This is the fumble Rooski. That was Steve Wilson, our left guard. And what do? You drop it down, he picks it up like it's a fumble, but it's designed and planned to be one of those sneak plays. Because when you play Notre Dame, they were undefeated this year. We were undefeated going into this game. And you had to pull out all the stoppers, right? And do you play this through the end, Harrison, this whole play? Or
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, because hey, that play, the fumble Ruski, is renowned, but shit, there was a fumble. And all it takes is a fumble to make a great play, just a disaster. But the good news here is I think Steve got back on it, and so really this is fun. And you don't see this today's game, or you really don't see it historically. Really, no one really does this.
No, and this is an opportunity to give Anthony a moment to stick a little knife here in Air Force going into it. And Anthony, how would you coach this guard who now gets to run the football? How do you feel about his technique and the ball security right here?
Well, I'm just glad the Air Force is providing air cover as opposed on the front line, because you'd never want your bayonet and your rifle in 2 different hands. I'll tell you the more interesting thing though. I was watching this play, and our coach taught us to read guards. And John Robb, who's one of my closest friends in the world, played linebacker from Texas since he was in kindergarten. And one of the reasons why I could pick up linebacker so fast is that he taught me all the reads. And on this play, if those Notre Dame linebackers, that Michael Stonebreaker, who was All-American, this team was undefeated, won the national championship, if he read the guard, he would have known that was a play coming at him, and he would have scraped off the end and tackled the guard coming around. And the guard that's on the backside, if your guard pulls, you fucking go with the guard. Everyone knows that. So anyway, Notre Dame was sloppy. They're just athletes. Air Force, well coached. They make up for that one step they may not have. Army the same way. But in all just, keep your bayonet and your rifle. It's a lot more effective.
Yeah. tuck it away. I mean, this is his moment to shine. Like the guard gets to run the football, and I think the moment was just so exciting that he's trying to get his, and he does, and winds up fumbling it.
Hey, Harrison, just 30. It's really about a month ago. I had my it was our 31st reunion, but because of COVID last year, our 30th reunion got canceled. So we all came together just a month ago, and we were having a beer out by a fire, and we were talking about this exact play. And Steve moved well back then. Now he's not moving so well. The knee's getting a little bit old, but nevertheless, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite things about sports is what you just said, the fireside chats. Think about what we're doing right now. A bunch of guys getting together, older in age, telling stories about how great we were. And, our memories are, wow, we are 10 times the athletes now than we were then, at least in our minds. So to come together and actually show the film, it's like, Greg and Anthony were telling the truth. they got some skills there. So I want to bring the conversation back to West Point and Anthony's success here. So let me just pull up this. Here we go. Versus Rutgers. Now this game, just so you know, came down to the wire. This was a battle. Look at that. Ooh. This is a smack. And Coach Noto, you're talking about reading the guards, and that is something that the academies have as an advantage because, you have to practice against your own offense and the guards tell the story. And that's how both Air Force, and West Point can have such great effect on the Power 5 schools because they're just not used to doing that. There it is, sideline to sideline, twisting. And every yard counts in this game. Boom. Oh, gosh. What was this? Do you remember this, Anthony? This unleashing hit? I mean, that's third down.
Yeah, I do remember it. I didn't have a lot of hits like this, so it's easy to remember them when they're so infrequent. But the play before this, actually, my guess is you don't have it. The play before this was a similar scheme, and I think either Rick or Eddie Givens was out there on an island, and he laid a similar hit. And I think they may have come back to this play because they were going to, do a, fake and go on Eddie. But what you see in this film, just hold it there for a second. And the top of the film right here on the hash behind me is Chet Nadolski. He was our outside linebacker on the right. Eddie, I'm pretty sure was the corner. And the play before, Eddie crushed on a quick screen. He came flying up from 8 yards back and crushed the guy for no gain. This is the last defensive series, or second to last defensive series, I think. And we won on the last offensive series. And Eddie came up and we got back to the huddle, and you just have pattern recognition. Like, we ran this in 7-on-7 fucking 1,000 times. It also happened in the Army Navy game where coach would just rip me apart if I didn't get all the way to that hash. I need to get all the way to that hash because if Eddie gets beat on the quick slant and up, I got to be there to turn the play back. So the play before this was that exact thing. So as I dropped back going towards the hash, which I knew I had to get to, I saw Eddie streaking with the guy. And as soon as I saw Eddie streaking with the guy and the guy in front of me, I'm like, I can go. I don't have to protect Eddie. He's gone on the streak. And that's quite frankly why I was able to go. Because there was no one else there that could be a threat to us coming back or going up the field. And if Chet doesn't do what he's supposed to do, that guy's wider, I can't hit him. If Eddie doesn't do what he's supposed to do, I can't come up fast and make that play. And so we all had a role to play, and some guys may get the benefit from the tackle, but that play doesn't happen without Chet getting on that hash and Eddie being able to handle the fly.
Boom. Yeah, and that's textbook. Unleashing your hips. I mean, it's a form tackle. It's the tackle that every coach teaches, but rarely actually shows up in the game. And here you are doing it. So let's talk about that as a metaphor for leadership in your business now, making sure that everyone gets aligned to do exactly what their job is. So big achievements, big plays, big hits can happen. And you clearly remember everything so sharply from that many years ago, which is difficult to do. How has that concept influenced your leadership?
I think one of the things, tough lessons I learned were the bad plays that I made, where I didn't play my responsibility the right way. Some of that was just something else happened and I took a risk, and some of that was just, the fog of war, so to speak. But one of the things that we talk a lot about at work, and what I've sort of come to appreciate much more from sports, but also from just mistakes in the corporate world, is that we all have a role to play, and we need to understand what that role is in the broader scheme of what's happening. I went to coach down at the prep schools at GA afterwards, and I would have been such a better player, and I was a defensive coordinator. And I really understood the defense at a new level. And I understood the bad plays I made, why they were bad. They were bad because I played outside of the system. They were bad because I took an unnecessary risk. Now, there are times when you have to take a necessary risk. But other than that, you have to really understand, what is the strategy? What are the priorities? Am I aligning with the strategy and those priorities? Am I allocating the right resources to my team? Am I holding them responsible? As a CEO, my job is to set the strategy, set the priorities, and allocate resources, get access to resources, and manage risk and hold people accountable. And on the football field, that inside linebacker has a certain responsibility in that play. And if you take a risk, it better be worth it. And we tell our team, we're willing to take risks, but the reward better be 3 or 4x the risk that you're taking, because otherwise it's not the right risk to take. And, I remember a play, because I brought John Robb up earlier. I remember a play, we're down at Wake Forest and we were getting our ass kicked. And they were on the 10 or 8 yard line, and they ran an ISO, which was similar to the play that you showed before. John was the front side linebacker, and his job when he sees a down block is to take the fullback on with his inside shoulder and force the ball back to me so I can make a big tackle like I did in that play. And we both were phenomenal at the ISO. As soon as we saw that fucking down, it was like a train coming through the hole, and we'd be 2 yards in the backfield. So John took a risk. He jumped over the fucking fullback and hit the halfback. And I remember seeing it, and I'm like, God, I love that guy. Like, it was the right time to take the right risk, and it stopped him from getting another touchdown. And so instead of being down 27-7, we were down, 24-7. So I've actually used that example in work as well. Like, we want people to play within the system, but there are times where we have to take a step out and take a big risk.
And if I hear you correctly, that risk assessment is only possible when you have a great understanding of the commanding intent of the entire scheme, so you can execute your role within that scheme enough times that you can recognize an aberration where this is a moment to take the right risk. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And we're fighting against JP Morgan and Bank of America and Merrill Lynch and Chase and Goldman Sachs and everyone else. And the reality is that we have to have a strategy that allows us to beat them. We're smaller, we have less capital, we have less brand awareness, and our strategy is designed just like Army football's offense, which is to go 15 yards, take 8 minutes off the clock, keep the defense on the bench. The defense only plays 20 minutes, and that means the offense on the other team can only play 20 minutes. They only can score so much, but also the defense is fresher every play, and they can make up for that one step because they're playing harder. And we similarly have a strategy that allows us to compete with these big companies. And I don't use football analogies with them, but it's a direct correlation. And our strategy is allowing us to beat bigger teams. And we're doing it through technology and people understanding their role and being scrappy. One of our core values is we want to iterate some more to make our products and services better every day. And we could do that because of the technology platform we built that other people don't have. But it's also the culture of grinding. That's what iteration means. And so, these plays are a result of coaches just grinding us on film and grinding us in practice every day.
And your commitment to the grind, which I think needs to be understood by everyone watching this right now, where, I love watching NCAA football. I'm sure everybody on this call does. And I love watching the NFL football, and it's great. And, you get to see the lights and the glitz and the game day, but the juice, the sweetness is in the grind. It's doing it with your brothers and sisters, right? And Greg, as you hear Anthony talk about all of this, how does that resonate with you and in your leadership?
Yeah, we have maybe own version of maybe some of the same concepts. I think if you played college football, no matter what team you're on, you're almost part of a brotherhood there, right? Because the experience at the academies versus any other university, there are a lot of similarities. You know, the thing, at least that I incorporate, you know, as a leader in a company, it's really important to have a vision that just inspires you to do more than you ever thought possible. And, you know, that was true in football, right? Whenever you think about the upcoming game, it was really important to really get up for it, to understand what's possible, and to dream about that, to visualize it. So that's, you know, that same technique is really important in your business world as well. You also got to have an operating system. It's a way, how do you deliver consistency? How do you have that constancy of just effort and ensuring that the whole team knows the play you're running, understands the strategy, understands the tactics, and importantly, understands the role that they play and understands the job they have to do. What I talk a lot about is there's the job. The job is what's expected of you. But the role is something that you dig deep and you play a bigger role than what you're asked to play. And every play you watch, any successful team, any successful play, there's somebody who's doing more than what they were asked to do. They block their assignment, you know, they call it second effort. And second effort is when you actually take that, that initiative and that just will to win to go beyond the job you're supposed to get done and actually enable something bigger for somebody else. When you have a team that understands that it's not about doing your job only, it's about doing a job and playing a bigger role. And if you can get your organization to embody that, to embrace that, where they're looking for an opportunity beyond the job we asked them to get to accomplish, and actually look beyond that. And if we can do that as a team in our organization, that's how we excel. You know, we other things we talk a lot about is winners keep score. You know, we're very rigorous. We care deeply about what we call our key performance indicators. We care deeply about execution because we know through execution you're able to get results. And at the end of the day, you know, we're in the tax business. At the end of there's a tax season. It's a great metaphor for football. It kicks off essentially in January 1st. It ends April 15th for the most part. And that's 100 days of grind. You know, you're almost 24/7 for 100 days. And when you're done, you look up at that scoreboard and you want to be proud of the work and proud of the, you know, the results that you delivered. All that kind of, that perspective that I bring to my job is the same perspective that I was taught, you know, through playing the game of football. And I tell you, it's such a privilege. It's such a privilege to be part of an amazing team and to learn these life lessons. And, you know, so those are some of the, probably some of the most important lessons that I carry over to, you know, the organization that I lead.
I love it, Greg. Going above and beyond, doing your job, but playing a bigger role. That's what I keep hearing. And, you know, let's get some clarification on that. As we watch some more of your films here, your clips, you know, we see this long touchdown run and the spin move that you have against San Diego State here. And you're well within your role and you're letting your talent shine and you're scoring, you're keeping score. But talk to us about how the bigger role still stays within the confines of what you're asked to do. Like, for instance, you know, your job is not to go beyond your role, receive this pitch, and then throw it back across the field because now all of a sudden you want to go above and beyond and be the quarterback. Right? And sometimes that can get confusing. Like, folks want to do more. We all want to do more, but then we wind up venturing into territory where it can become disruptive rather than just doing what you're great at and that's scoring touchdowns like this. What are your comments on that?
I don't know, you know, the mindset, you know, I just believe that the mindset is that you're given these skills, you're given the ability to do more than what's asked of you. And I think it's so important that you try to grasp that potential on every play, every interaction. I always talk about intentionality. How do you lead? How do you show up with intentionality? Every interaction is an opportunity to have an impact on somebody in a positive way. Every interaction is an opportunity to forward your mission forward in a positive way. And that may not be your job, but you have that capacity. And, so my thought here is going above and beyond. And by the way, Harrison, sometimes it doesn't work out, but if your heart's in the right place and you approach your work with that intentionality, I guarantee you when the scoreboard at the end of it, at the end of the game, that scoreboard is going to be important. Another thing, the scoreboard we use, at least I use, is you look in the mirror, right? I always say that you look in the mirror, that person won't lie to you. You can't lie to yourself. And, each day when you look in the mirror, do you feel like you're putting forth the effort? Do you feel like you've thought deeply enough? Do you feel like you're really doing all that it takes to be successful? And so I do think that idea of looking in the mirror and feeling proud of what you've done and how you've gone above and beyond is so critical, even if it doesn't work out that, every time.
I love it. So if I hear you correctly, going above and beyond comes from the magnitude of your intention, the intentionality that you pay to your role. And if you play and work with great intention, you will build pride and confidence. And you can look yourself in the mirror with pride if you do these things. Is that a
Yeah, well said.
Thank you for sharing. And this concept of intentionality and score, Anthony, I would love to hear your thoughts on these concepts. And while we do this, I'm also gonna play some more of your clips here, because I believe when I watch this, I am witnessing intention on film here, right? So Anthony, how do you feel about intentionality and how it relates?
Yeah, the themes that Greg just spoke to are themes that we embody in our company as well. I was just thinking through, some of the core values we have that align directly to what he said. One of our core values is to make your footprint bigger than your foot. And so the point that he was making around, you have a role, you have a responsibility, but if you just do your job, we won't be better than anyone else. And so that's that concept of make your footprint bigger than your foot. It could be something simply as learning a new way to execute a marketing program. It could be something about a product change. It could be something about data usage, whatever it is. If it drives success for you and you share that with everyone else and you don't help everyone else be better than the others would be, then we're not going to be the best in the world. And we're not going to beat people that are bigger and stronger and better than we are. And so, make your footprint bigger than your foot is one of those concepts. The other one is running after problems. And we have a matrix organization like most large companies do with many products. And I think we have 9 different products. And it's often the case where there are issues that come up that sort of fall between the cracks of the two businesses. And we need a culture where people see that problem and they run after it. They run into the fire. They don't run away from the fire. Because if they don't, that is going to fall through the cracks. And we're going to have a culture of it's not my problem. It's your problem. And we want all of our problems to be our problems as a team. And so one of our core values is to run after problems. And then, the last one I would just highlight is one of our core values is to ensure that we make principle and data-driven decisions. And so people don't have the luxury of saying, I'm in charge, therefore we're doing this. No, what are the principles? What are the criteria that we're going to use to make the decision between A, B, and C? And until we start talking about A, B, and C, we have to agree what the criteria is and the principles that we're going to, apply against A, B, and C to see what the best outcome is. And we're going to assign who the approver is. We're going to assign who the contributors are, and we're going to assign who the followers are. we are intentional about that structure. So it's very clear what role people have to play, but everyone's voice should be heard and everyone should have an ability to have a perspective, because if we don't have all the data, we don't have all the perspectives, we'll never get to the right outcome. And so we want to make principle and database decisions, and we want to get to the truth. Everyone's point of view is welcomed. And, a lot of those concepts were born from the football field and other sports in West Point. But I've kind of carried them throughout my life. And when I had the opportunity to lead SoFi, I wanted to make sure they were part of our foundation.
Well, I know that was great information and knowledge for me personally. So hopefully everybody else is taking a piece of that. And, I want to go back and kind of show exactly what you're saying. You talk about running two problems. This is running two problems, knowing your role, right? Understanding the offense. Like you said, you've done all of this research, game planning leading up to this moment to recognize sprint out, your ability to run the lane here, run to the problem. This is third down. This is for the game here. You shoot the gap, make the play, your teammates rally, and that is sheer joy and enthusiasm. And here are your teammates doing the same thing on this this becomes the last play of the game for Rutgers on offense. But here is an interception after your score to win it. And I look, the team celebration, everyone's going nuts. And what did it feel like in this moment? If you look at this still shot right now, there's sideline going crazy.
I think it's classic Army football. Game came down to the wire. It was a battle back and forth. The score, I think, was in the 20s for both teams, if I remember correctly. And it was also the 100th anniversary celebration for Army football. And I remember being down in that end zone that you had showed in that last series, and seeing, guys from the class before us that had graduated, seeing people I watched when, I was a kid in Poughkeepsie, New York, playing that I wanted to be like, and then some of the all-time great Heisman Trophy winners, Pete Dawkins, and many other of the Noto, just famous football players that built Army football into what it is today. So it was a pretty emotionally charged game, and it came down to the wire, and we came together as a team and made the plays that needed to be made to get the victory. So every win was always it didn't matter who we played. Every win was a great celebration, because it was a direct result of never taking for granted that you can just show up, that you had to go out there and play the game the best that you could.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway that stays with me from football, is celebrate the wins. Football, like some of the other sports, we just play so few games, and you work so hard for it that when you get a win, regardless of the opponent, love it, right? We worked hard for it. And we had a question from Dan, who's attending the webinar, and he asked, do we have any clips of Greg and Anthony colliding, like Anthony tackling Greg actually in a game? And to answer your question, Dan, we don't have that, because this is a spirited rivalry, and I don't want these guys jumping through the screen and me getting caught in the middle. So that is intentionally omitted from this show, but I'm sure we can dig them out. So with that, well, we're going to wrap up the show right here and ride this enthusiasm into this tremendous game tomorrow. So make sure that everybody checks it out. The game is 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And it's just a great example of what football, sports, and leadership mean to our country. And we have two of the best icons in leadership and sportsmanship on the show with Greg Johnson and Anthony Noto. So thank you so much for being on tonight and sharing your memories and your wisdom. We've all gotten better from this. And I just want to turn it over to you, Greg, for any final comments, any digs, and you're the home team. So you're going to go first, and then we'll turn it over to Anthony to close us out.
Yeah, well, you know what? First of all, I would say, Harrison, just thank you for what you do. I mean, I think this show is just impactful. It's impactful, the connecting the service to coaching and having a difference in your community and to leadership. I tell you, that is just something to be admired. And on top of all the great things you've done in your career. So thank you for pulling this together. Anthony, thank you for suggesting me. You know, we over the years, Anthony and I have ran into each other in different kind of occasions on different fields. And I've always, even though we're peers, looked up to him because of just the tremendous success that he's had, both on the football field, but in his professional life. And Anthony, it's a privilege certainly to be on the screen with you. And, you know, the last thing I would say, you know, at the end of the day, it's a big game tomorrow. It's a big game tomorrow, and our Falcons are having just a tremendous season, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't beat Army. You know, that's just the way that it works, because Army is, I mean, they truly are brothers that you hate on that one particular day. And so go Falcons, go Falcons.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, Harrison. And you know, Greg and I met at Kraft Foods. We didn't meet after a game or shake hands, but you know, I instantly knew what we were taught at West Point, that we battle on the field, but the minute we step off, we're brothers. So Greg, you know, it will always be considered a brother, and I'd be there for anything he ever asked for or needed. And it's been great to watch each other's career and cross paths in different roles at different companies over time. And it's just phenomenal to see him as, you know, CEO of the consumer division at Intuit, which is a great company that was helped built by a guy named Scott Cook, but quite frankly, another really influential football player, coach, and mentor, and Bill Campbell, which is someone I've gotten to know. And so we have a ton of respect for the culture at Intuit and the company that's been built there. And to see Greg as the CEO of one of their two big divisions is a real testament to what he's accomplished and the impact that the backgrounds that we have can have in society and on companies, and quite frankly, in many people's lives. You know, Harrison, this is you know, it is a very unique way to bring perspectives to the masses, to leverage something that is so near and dear to many people's hearts, but something that the world is passionate about, that can be a prism that people see through to apply to their day-to-day. So thank you to you and your team for not just today, but building Soldiers to Sidelines. And, you know, the amount of volume of content and video that you're putting out takes a lot of work, and it's extraordinary, and it's super impactful. And just want to thank you and Willie Huff and the entire team for that. And, you know, the last thing I'd just say is, like, Air Force has always been in an incredibly hard game. And we were, you know, it's not that Navy isn't hard, Navy is incredibly hard as well. But the formula to beat Air Force is more challenging. And the reason why is that because, you know, they play at a higher altitude, it's across the country, it's a home game for each team as opposed to a neutral site. Navy is a formidable competitor, but the formula for victory there isn't as challenging because it's a neutral site. We're both on the East Coast, we're in the same time zones. It comes at the end of the year, you get 2 weeks to prepare for it. It's just not as logistically and planning wise as challenging. And so it's always been challenging to play Air Force away. I'm just happy that they didn't recognize their competitive advantage and allowed the rooster into the hen house. And I'm pretty confident that come the end of the day on Saturday, when the gun goes off and the cannon fires, Army's going to be sitting there standing second, singing second, our alma mater. So Greg, I love you like a brother, but we're going to kick your ass on Saturday, and we will sing second.
Bring it, Anthony.
I love you guys. I love the competition. I love the tenacity. And let's close out and all remember, let's take their words, these two incredible leaders, let's take their words into the rest of our workday today and through the rest of our lives, and think about intentionality, persistence, tenacity, and grit. Things are going to get really tough. We know that. That's the way life is. And we can look to these fine gentlemen as a beacon to emulate and have tremendous success. I hope everyone has a great night. Take care, everyone.
Thank you all. Take care, Greg.
Thank you.
Harrison.